afternoon. This is Derek Chamblee, broadcasting from Chamblee, Atlanta, the next great American city. Battleground Zero, the epicenter of the 2017 civil defense of the United States of America. It's high noon, Monday, September 4th, 2017. Following the breaking news, of course, Trump's path. We're picking up an article just released this morning from the global Politico. You can get it by going politico.com, and it's the headline, Dealing with Hurricane Trump. Jeh Johnson, that's first name spelled J-E-H, Jeh Johnson, former Homeland Security Chief, on the many crises, natural and otherwise, of the Trump era, subheadline. And it's written by Susan B. Glasser, dated, of course, today, September 4th, 2017. And we'll start at the top. Much of America's fourth largest city is still underwater as the drowning of Houston rapidly becomes the costliest disaster in U.S. history. President Trump is threatening a major confrontation with Congress over funds to build his proposed border wall with Mexico. He has reportedly decided to end an Obama-era program allowing 400,000 children who were brought here to the U.S. illegally to work and live here. The Secret Service, taxed by Trump's weekend Johnson big family to protect, is just about out of money. But more than a month after naming John Kelly the head of the massive department, this is the Department of Homeland Security, that deals with all those problems, to be the new chief of staff in his tumultuous White House, Trump has yet to name a replacement as Secretary of Homeland Security. Not only that, he appears nowhere close to doing so and has not even interviewed any candidates for the job. Now, we want to, we'll continue with the article. Big mistake, argues Jeh Johnson, who served as the Obama administration's DHS chief until Trump's inauguration in January. In a new interview for Global Politico, Johnson says, quote, "We need to have a Senate-confirmed Secretary of Homeland Security. We need to have someone occupying that office full-time 24/7 to keep his or her eye on aviation security, border security, cybersecurity, maritime security, FEMA, the Secret Service, and all the other things that DHS covers. In particular," unquote, that's the end of his quote, former director of Department of Homeland Security, Jeh Johnson, under the Obama administration. Continuing with the article, in particular, he cited the Secret Service empty coffers and Trump's failure to address America's vulnerable election infrastructure a full year after the Russian tampering with the 2016 U.S. presidential election as crisis where having a permanent secretary in place really matters. Now, we want to stop right there. First of all, former director of the Department of Homeland Security, Jeh Johnson, really he was working the office full time, 24/7, to keep his eye on cybersecurity, and so that the particulars of the so-called Russian tampering would not occur with the election apparatus of the 2016 presidential election. Oh, really? Well, he must have failed there. He must have failed there, and we wanted to stop right here because what the current president, Donald Trump, has done through a series of meetings with James Mad Dog Mattis that came up out of Tampa Central Command and the base of at MACDILL out of Tampa and the base of Homeland Security, a series of meetings that included Tom Bossert, who came up out of Central Command and Homeland Security, who is now the Homeland Security Special Advisor that doesn't have to be approved necessarily by the Senate, to our current President Donald Trump. And also, John Kelly, as the article notes, Chief of Staff, was the director of DHS, Department of Homeland Security. Now he's right there in the White House as the Chief of Staff. So really, what our current President Donald Trump has done is he's reconstructed the Department of Homeland Security. And the reason why he hasn't interviewed any candidates to fill the position is he's got it well covered. As far as the Secret Service, he's got his own private security, and he's got the former head of Department of Homeland Security there in the West Wing of the White House advising him as Chief of Staff, who is also in charge of protecting him. All right, so the job will not be filled by design because our current President Donald Trump doesn't want to have to go through a particular Senate examination, confirmation of a new Secretary of Homeland Security. It's not necessary. He's reconstructed it through a series of meetings. When he went down to Tampa shortly after being inaugurated the first week of February, and they crafted this particular plan. Of course, the Department of Homeland Security is also border security. Border security, referred to in this article by the former chief, and this is another problem that the current president was elected to resolve. So there's another failure there. By the former chief Johnson, who's now some sort of expert, to say, hey, we need to have a Senate-confirmed Secretary of Homeland Security. This is a quote from him again. We need to have somebody occupying that office full-time, 24/7. Oh, really? Well, isn't that what he did? And the thing about it is, as far as hacking the election bureaus, we've still got no answer on how it could come to be that the Department of Homeland Security hacked into many of the election bureaus throughout the country and many states throughout the country, including Chamblee, Atlanta, including Atlanta, Georgia here. There was a complaint by the Secretary of State of the state of Georgia about this, and there was never any follow-up about the hacking of the Department of Homeland Security, or at least the fingerprint was left that it came from the Homeland Security. These things were not even answered in the 2016 presidential campaign and election, and instead the focus is on Russia. The focus is on Russia. Oh, really? So he's an expert on what? How to fail, how to work at something 24/7. It had to be reconstructed, and so we wanted to pick up on that article. We'll get back to you, entitled Dealing with Hurricane Trump. And as we've got Hurricane Irma approaching, of course we're watching that, and we're jumping ahead of the meteorologist to give a full warning to Florida and to escape the peninsula of Florida, to evacuate Florida above the 28th parallel, which cuts horizontal just above Orlando, and begin to make your way from Pinellas County, St. Petersburg, over the bridges through Hillsborough County, Polk County, Orange County, all the way up to through Orlando, all the way up through Gainesville and Ocala and Gainesville, and all the way up through Tallahassee, and on the East Coast, all the way up I-95, all the way up I-95 through Jacksonville, all the way into Georgia, all the way to Chamblee, Atlanta, Georgia is a fallback position. The fallback position. This hurricane, if it continues to tumble to the southwest for another 24 hours without turning, as the meteorologists expect, it's going to take a southern route that could threaten Honduras and Nicaragua. It's going to re-strengthen down in the western Caribbean. This may slow its northern path, and then it meander a few days along the the west, the coast of Central America and come up over the Yucatan Peninsula into the Gulf of Mexico and strengthen possibly into a Category 4, Category 5, and curve right for the Tampa Bay region. This is Derek Chamblee, CYRADYO, Cyber Citizen Network, Citizen Alert, Florida, Georgia, the state of emergency. Tuesday, September 4th, 2017. Thank you very much.